back to the IGNITEU New York podcast powered by NYSTEC. I'm your host, Shay Brown, and each episode we sit down with leaders and changemakers who are driving innovation, strengthening our regional economy, and supporting the next generation of our workforce. Today, we're joined by someone who has been instrumental in building and shaping Central New York's innovation ecosystem, John Liddy, Vice President of Innovation and Entrepreneurship at CenterState CEO. John Liddy has spent years supporting founders, building programs, and cultivating entrepreneurial talent throughout the region. We'll be discussing one of CenterState CEO's most exciting new initiatives, the INSPYRE Innovation Hub, a state-of-the-art space designed to foster collaboration, support small businesses, and accelerate economic growth in Syracuse and beyond. John, thank you so much for being here today.
My pleasure, Shay. Good to see you again.
Yeah, so why don't you give us a little bit of a background about yourself, just to get started?
I like to tell people I'm a recovering entrepreneur. I have a business now on the side, but I sold my last business on 9/11. So first of all, I'm really old. After that, I went to work in the corporate world, and I got let go for being entrepreneurial.
Really?
Yeah, it was an interesting spot. But I had a 2-year opportunity afterwards, parachute, and literally the next month, CenterState approached me and said, "Hey, would you help us? We know your entrepreneurial background. Would you help us help students start businesses?" And this is way back in 2009. And so we did that, started an accelerator. It went well. We had 5 teams that initial year. One of them actually ended up being on Shark Tank, sold their business for $50 million. And so that generated, hey, here's the way that we do this accelerator programming. I was able to do it for a couple of other locations. That's where we got to meet over at Griffiths. And so since 2009, I've been helping people start and grow businesses.
You really developed a process then for how everything can kind of go, a system to kind of like a mathematical equation of success in a way for a business.
Yeah, it's scalable. It's a little bit of rinse and repeat, but not unlike an entrepreneur, you're always iterating. And so if I took a look back at the programs that we ran back in 2010, 2011, they've been able to change throughout the process. And currently, even to this day, when we run a IGNITEU New York accelerator, we're on our 9th one now, it was different than accelerator 8, and number 10 will be different. And that's a responsible thing to do, like any organization, and specifically in the entrepreneurial side.
What kind of core features would you say have kind of stuck around since the beginning?
I would say, the recognition that there are multiple tracks when you're starting a business. There's the product or the service, what you're doing, and that's like the what you're doing. The how you're getting that accomplished, like how are you being entrepreneurial itself? It's not you're making a widget or providing that service. It's I got to understand how to form an entity, to build a team, to get productization, to get business development. And that will always be there. And so when we're running programs, whether accelerators or incubators, we'll have that baseline. And then on top of that, we can attach subject matter. All right, we're going to be in the semiconductor space. We're going to be in the microelectronic space. We're going to be in the drone space. We're going to be in the quantum space. But that the entrepreneurial journey will always be there. And we really solidified that as, okay, we can now attach that to any different cluster that we want to go to.
That's kind of great, because yes, it will obviously change and transform depending on the industry, how you target and everything, but there's going to be a solid stream for how all of these businesses unravel and become who they are as a business, which is what you're saying.
It is, and then it allows us to scale, because here's the process by which you're going to advise these companies and say, here's the milestone document, here's the things that we want to make sure that we're hitting, here are the objectives. Obviously, you have to change for each individual business, but you have a general pathway to do that. And then you can get multiple people doing it, and you can really start to affect a lot more people.
So now to kind of bring it to the INSPYRE Innovation Hub, what kind of programs do you have here that really reflect those, processes?
Sure. And so we're kind of split into 2 different areas. We have programs and we have clients. And the program side, we run accelerators. We do clean tech, we do UAS, we do surge accelerator. We're doing work with microelectronics. And those are cohort-based. Hey, we get a bunch of teams in. There's usually some pitch event at the end. And there's, those teams tend to all be in the same kind of space, whether they're at the ideation stage or the validation stage or the growth stage. And our director of programs, Kara Jones, runs that. And then on the client side, because we have a much larger facility, and we specifically wanted to open up our capabilities to a broader audience. It used to be the Tech Garden, and the Tech Garden was tech-based, venture capital backable type companies. And we recognized that we shifted the makeup of the team. And it used to be very vertically integrated. Well, I'm going to do the program management. I'm going to do the recruitment. I'm going to do the curriculum. I'm going to do the advising. I'm going to do the administration. And so we did was flip that and made it horizontal. And so, hey, we have program managers. We have entrepreneurial managers. We have administrators. And so what that allows us to do is really to hit a much broader audience. And that's part of our mission. We want to have businesses thrive and all people prosper. And so it's not just high tech. It's Main Street pizza people. And so that was a really strong benefit of that.
Here at INSPYRE, we recognize that in order to have a Micron, you need a mom and pop shop. You need people to sustain other people.
Yeah, at 50,000 jobs, 9 to 10 of them at Micron, the other 40 are, supply chain, are laundromats, are daycares, right? And on the flip side of that, another thing that we're seeing is on the growth side. We have more mature companies that are in the building now, and we can use our innovation capabilities to help them. Hey, I want to get into a new line of business. I want to understand how to do business with a microelectronics firm. I'm not sure what it's like to do business with the DoD. And so we've been able to really leverage those capabilities to get the early stage, the mid stage, and the late stage firms.
Right. And I don't want to jump the gun a little bit, but you already brought it up, talking about the DoD. What does that mean in terms of INSPYRE Innovation Hub? How are you connecting small businesses, maybe not mom and pop shops, but maybe more technical, with federal agencies and getting them involved in that kind of work?
Well, first and foremost, I think you have to recognize that within our community, the 12-county space that surrounds Syracuse, there's a lot of DoD kind of contractors, right? And if there's a smaller firm that's looking to get into that business, they might not know how to do that. We have some friends over at the Griffith Institute that we work with. We're actually on a DoD contract with them to help facilitate microelectronics manufacturing so that we can get these smaller firms into dual use. They are everything from administrative, getting your cage code, to the strategic. How is it that I'm influencing my congressman or congresswoman to identify funding opportunities? And so working with other organizations that are already in that space and making sure that we understand that it is a true continuum. It's everything from the idea to how is it that you're making sure that your local representation is bringing your best ideas forward.
Yeah, it really sounds like a lot of the work you're doing is obviously hands-on, direct. You're doing it with these businesses. You're saying we're a part of this together, but you're also educating them through this process, it sounds like.
It is. And, it's this odd thing. The best thing for us to happen is you to move out, right? And so it's not like we're trying to get you and keep you here. Our goal here is to get you into a space where you have a product or service that is serving a known need that you can do effectively, identify workforce requirements that you have. If you don't have it, how is it that we can help train that? And then as you get into these customer bases, if you're going to grow your facility or your size of your company, hey, we have an economic development organization that can assist you to find physical spaces and any of the resources that you need in the community. And then we'll bring in the next company and do the same for them.
Wow, that's great. And what kinds of successes have you seen so far with this kind of work?
We've seen, every company is not successful. And, we have a lot of, I'd say, marquee accounts that we'll talk to. And we've had companies that have grown to hundreds of people. We've had companies that I think we have now 3 unicorns where their private valuation's over $1 billion. And so at the end of the day, our job is to create jobs. Realistically,
you're going to learn a lot from failures. And by failures, it just means that maybe it didn't get to a phase that another company got to, right?
That's true. And by having people really understand that mindset, that's a little bit of a flip. And frankly, there's a whole West Coast, East Coast side of that. West Coast, I fail, and I just go on to the next one. Well, if I'm in Silicon Valley and I fail, I can go next door and there's a company, right? Because I can do it again. And so therefore, the cost of me failing is a lot less. Now that I have a 90,000 square foot building and I have 40 plus companies in the building and then another 90 outside, if I fail, I'm literally having companies walk next door and saying, my company didn't succeed. Yours looks like it's still going. Let's talk. And so we're really, really leveraging that ecosystem by having this concentration of all these companies together.
Can you elaborate as to what you mean by 40 inside and 90 outside?
So the physical building's 90,000 square feet. We have the 2 floors that we're currently occupied. It's 100% rented. And so I have 40 companies in this building right now.
Amazing.
And then I have 90 clients outside of this building. So where they come in and like they get business advising, they might be participating in an internship or an incubator or an accelerator.
And are those like all businesses that are just in Syracuse, New York, or are they outside of this kind of region as well a little bit?
So the physical ones in the 40 that are here, they're largely have started here or they've been attracted by one of our accelerator programs. Case in point, our Genius New York program. We draw internationally, nationally for that. And so those folks will be in residence here for a year to 2 years. And then the goal is obviously to have them stay. And we've had some success on that. We're still always working on that. Like 2 cohorts ago, every company in the cohort was international. We didn't have a USA-based one. And so they're like, hey, I want to have a UAS company that I want to put in the United States. I got to figure out a spot. You have a really solid concentration in upstate New York. Let me do that.
Yeah, we do actually have a lot of UAS work through here. We have a whole corridor from Syracuse to Rome. Is that correct?
That's correct. And then all the way up into the Adirondacks, thousands of miles.
It kind of brings together the urban and the city elements, right?
It's interesting you bring up the urban because we have a potential drone deck on the second floor. And we've had some real issues with drone being able to be launched there because they run into interference. However, in the urban environment, that's going to happen. You're going to have drone delivery in a city that's got, skyscrapers, right? And so we're going to have to figure out, and the technology will have to evolve so that they don't have that radio interference. And so hopefully right here in this building, we'll be starting to figure that out.
So when did the drone aspect be put in? Was that always planned?
It's planned. It's aspirational right now. We have the physical location. It needs a little bit of shoring up on the roof line and the decking there and some electrical. And then we have to solve the radio issue.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure that there are plenty of businesses that are ready and willing to do that right now, given you have 40 in-house and then 90 externally. That's quite a few that you could pull from to maybe develop something.
It is. And once we find the monetary reason for them to do that, we'll do it.
And that's a great point, actually. So the monetary aspect of things, what is that like for you? How does the money flow here and how does it impact the surrounding businesses and the ones that you're working with?
We have multiple forms of funding. The building itself was all outside funded. We had, I always joke, it's like a NASCAR, all the different funding mechanisms that we had to build this building out. The bulk of which was Empire State Development. New York State has been a very strong partner of ours, not only in the building, but in our Genius New York program. So really thankful to them. Like I said, we have 40 tenants. They all play Brent. And so that's a significant increase in that and gives us a lot of flexibility in our programming dollars. We have state and federal programs to fund the accelerator. And then we have rentals. Hey, you want to come rent a space? We have that. And then we have pay for events. And so we have a wide range of funding.
That's how you create stability, right? Is having multiple money flows and channels in which that these businesses can either impact the hub or be impacted by the hub. So that's really great to hear.
Yeah, having that diversity of funding, it allows us a lot of flexibility. And what I've been saying over the last year and a half is I want to go from playing defense to offense. Like, hey, here's a grant opportunity. I hope you like what's in that grant versus here's a need in the market that I think we should fill and we have flexible dollars to go and attack that.
Do you have any ideas in terms of like what would be something you'd want to target?
I do. They're on the drawing board and being worked on right now. Not quite ready for prime time, but they're going to include everything from working with underserved markets to existing firms that are looking to grow, to creating something called a venture studio where we're identifying cluster-based problems and attacking that with entrepreneurs. Yeah, and it's a little bit of the state of the art, the whole venture studio model, and then frankly, the federal government has changed the way that they fund cohorts there. Instead of, hey, we're interested in quantum, UAS, and cyber, it is, here's a problem we have.
Oh.
And so it identifies a need in the market, and then, frankly, from there, a customer.
Yeah.
And so it's not me solving what I think is your problem and then asking you if it's your problem and then selling it. It's you telling me, and I'm solving it. And so we're reversing that, and so we're going problem first versus solution. What's the value proposition versus what's the feature? Like, batteries not included is the fact that the batteries are included. The value there is I don't have an upset kid on Christmas Day, right? And so at the end of the day, why are you doing that and for what reason? And that gets a little deeper with the customers and identifying because what they think their solution is, that might not be what they're looking for. And so to have those conversations, that customer discovery is really important.
Yeah. So what kinds of problems are you seeing right now that maybe if this was up and running, you would want to target?
Frankly, I can't open my email or see anybody in the day without talking about AI. We're dealing with a lot of issues on AI. What problems are they solving? What's the ethical side of things? Human in the loop. Do you want an autonomous tank and not have anyone decide?
Right.
Well, and there's all sorts of things. And so I think that is one of the most interesting things. And the pace of development in the AI space is incredible.
Yes.
I have several, but we have one AI company that started here in November. They've gone from 4 to 16 people since then.
Do you educate your clients at all about how they can utilize AI in their businesses?
Probably on a daily basis.
So do you have trainings or anything for that?
I am not an AI expert, but I have like I said, I have 3 or 4 different companies in the building. I tend to send them to them. What I will talk to them about business cases that I've seen use AI. Now, the actual solution in which version of AI, the large learning module, that's up to the experts.
You bring up a great point, though, where you say, okay, I'm not the expert in this, but I know people who can give you guidance. And so you direct other companies to the companies that are within here. So there's an internal network that's developing.
Yeah, internal. And, if CenterState has 1,000 members, and so if we don't have it in this building, we have access to it. And that's a real benefit of the network that we have. And we have a resource pool manager. So if you come in, I have a problem. It's about legal. It's about AI. It's about tech. It's about HR. We have a whole list of people that we've already identified as service providers that can assist with that. And we also have a mentorship program. So those that are maybe just a leadership kind of, guidance. And so we currently are piloting that program. We have 23 mentors and 23 mentees, and they're going through a 9-month program on that. And so we have a lot of access to that. One of the new things that's about to come online, I think I can talk about, we have something called a fractional C-suite.
Oh.
Fractional C-suite are for more advanced firms, later stage that, hey, I need a CFO for a little while. I need to understand my tech stack, so I need a CTO. I need to figure out what these HR requirements are. I have a chief people person, and so we have 8 people right now that we're about to pilot a program for that.
That's so interesting because we've actually had a fractional marketer on the podcast.
Okay.
And so he did speak about how it is often, small businesses that are growing and expanding. They're like, okay, well, now we're hitting this new roadblock, but no one on our team knows how to do it. So this sounds like an incredible program.
Yeah. And when we built out the space, one of the things we did, we kind of ate our own dog food and we talked to other entrepreneurs that have been successful. And so what is hey, we have this new space. And they gave us a bunch of ideas, one of which was I get to a certain plateau and I need access to executive talent. I started this business with my friends. Bobby's a great coder, but he doesn't have a full tech stack. Or, Susie understands Excel, but doesn't understand what a balance sheet is. And so that's a little underselling it. But at the end of the day, and getting that access, it also identifies for the companies to know what they don't know.
Right.
Like I didn't know I needed to have X, Y, and Z. Or we've seen it, frankly, a couple of them like, oh, I'm doing okay. I just need to have a system or a process around that.
I just need someone to do the accounting because maybe I'm not as good at the books as I am about coding, right?
Yeah, and it's like, I'm saving money by doing it myself. Yes, but you're taking a lot longer to do it, and you're foregoing the things you're good at.
Yes.
So that opportunity cost is something that we want to talk about.
That's a really great point. Opportunity cost. And how would you, if you were talking to a business, how would you explain that to them?
It's usually pretty straightforward. What don't you like doing? I hate payroll. So does everybody, right? And so I just talk to them about their personal, and then, what causes you agita, what keeps you up at night, what are you Googling or putting in ChatGPT to figure out more of, what you wish you knew more of. They tend to fall around things like payroll. If I get payroll tax wrong, I'm going to be liable, all right? And so there's some reason that they have real concerns. Occasionally, we have those people that think they can do everything. Those are kind of uncoachable, and we just send them on their way. We have this whole thing about business advising. Like, is the person able to, do they need advice? Will they take advice? Are they going to act on the advice, right? And when I'm looking at an entrepreneur, I want them to be coachable, but I don't want them to be all the way coachable. I want them to have a North Star and an idea where they want to go, but they should be able to take input. And that's, a strong thing for any entrepreneur because we talk about customer discovery all the time. Talk to a bunch of potential customers. And then so if I talk to 100 customers, they're not all going to say the exact same thing. I have to synthesize that. And then if I do a bell curve, all right, what's the bulk of that? And what are they saying? And strong entrepreneurs, we want them to say, all right, I'm going to take input here, to input here, input there, and then identify which of that input they want to move forward. People ask me all the time, what do I need on my team? You need a hacker, a hustler, and a hipster. And that's, or first day, that might be all you, but you got to have that diversity of capability. You got to have the designer, you got to have the coder, you got to have the people that are going to go sell it. And then there's this woman, Sarah Saraswati, who does a lot of work in the entrepreneurial space, and she always calls it the crazy quilt. So if a quilt is a blanket, but it has all these different squares, that diversity of capability, thought, background is going to make you that much stronger. Now, early stage companies, they find their friends that they go have a beer with or eat lunch with, but eventually you have to get out and figure out, all right, here's the kind of staff I need, here's the kind of capability I need. And that's where we come in. It's like those are the companies that, because we can show them, here's what the requirements for you to build a successful company at the same time you're building a successful business. And that company is the underlying infrastructure that's going to run that business.
I love that. It leads into a good question, a good follow-up, which is, what stage are these companies coming to you at?
Historically, if I take a look at stages and I do it at ideation, validation, growth. Ideation, I got this great idea, right? That tends to be a little more in the scholastic SBDC area. And so, however, we're leaning into that, and we're leaning in as low down into high school now. And then validation's where we historically really played our most roles. That's where accelerators kind of come into play. That's like, I got a product idea. I want to see if there's a market fit. I need to do some customer testing. I got to iterate on that idea. And that's our bread and butter. And then on the growth stage, that is, I'm in business. I got product market fit. I got to figure out how to grow it. And then there's inflection points. When I'm at 15 people, there's a big management inflection. At 50, there's another one. And then with, depending on if you're going into a different market, we'll talk about that. And so we're getting people, we've always been in the validation space at this building. But CenterState writ large had a broader impact on those ideation side. If you ever been to the Salt City market, we work with all those vendors.
Oh, really?
But we never did it in INSPYRE. We did it outside of that. Now they're here being a part of this whole community. And so we're able to get people at all stages of that continuum. And then on the growth side, I got companies upstairs that I have one that's about to come in that's publicly traded.
Wow.
And so they're really widely spread. We had to flex our capabilities internally as a staff and lean into CenterState network in order to assist with that. We recognize can't do that. I'm not a legal expert. Got to go make sure I have a good attorney.
Which gives me a great follow-up question again, which is, how do you kind of work with all of these different companies all at once, right? That you're talking about very diverse, like small mom and pop to now a publicly traded company. How are you working with that?
Well, we've had to hone in our process, and so intake is an important part. It used to be, I know a guy, I know a person, I know she's over there, that's great. Like, why did you refer this accountant to this person? Well, I knew them. Let's take that through the process. How did you identify what the problem was? And, what's that whole, when you're doing an advising? And so our advisors, are working through a bunch of systems relative to, here's the roadmap, here's what I've identified, here's the potential resources. I've got a resource pool manager, and he'll take this, look through this. Here's a fit relative to the capability. And then frankly, here's a fit based on how they're going to get along. So it's all the things. And so it's a lot of process.
Yeah. So it sounds like you have the tool set, but you also have a system in place with how the tools work.
Yeah. And I would say that it is ever evolving.
Yeah, of course.
We're always taking a look at it, do a after action report. What happened with this firm? What happened with this company? So we'll review tenants, we'll review clients, we'll review participants in the accelerator programs. Why did it work? Why didn't it work? Who was the advisor that helped them? Who was the outside capability? And so we always want to be iterating and make sure we're bringing our best.
I think, continuing to evolve a system is really, really critical, especially with something that's so in flux all the time. Businesses are constantly changing, especially right now in New York State. And so to have something that's constantly evolving is really, really critical to making sure that it's a stable, system.
It is. And then being entrepreneurial, we can do it at pace. That's a little harder in a bigger organization when, all right, that's not our procedure. That's not our policy. And entrepreneurial organizations are making up their policies and procedures as they roll.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are, which can be good and sometimes not as beneficial as they might want it to be. So it's good that they are able to come to a place where there's kind of like stability in a rock for them to kind of build off of, even if they are saying, well, I want to shift the policies that you're kind of telling me that I should implement in my company to make it fit what my actual needs are. But having kind of like a skeletal apparatus to kind of build from is really, really critical for them.
Yeah, and then sharing what that apparatus is so that we're all singing off the same sheet music.
So, John, when someone, a new person, an entrepreneur, a small business walks in here, what can they expect in terms of access and who they can talk to and what they can actually accomplish?
Sure. I'll start, I guess, at the fact that they can walk in. Our previous building was not very inviting. People didn't know what it was. And if you take a look out in our lobby, you'll see a ton of glass. And that was really purposeful. And it is to advertise to the world that, hey, this is what's going on inside. Even so, when we'll have our maker space up in the next quarter, that has a lot of windows too. And it's so that people can see themselves in that space. And our front door faces the southwest side of Syracuse and that's intentional to make sure that we're welcoming to our community and our neighbors. And so first, they're welcome here. And then our whole staff is trained to make sure that people are welcome here. And so when you walk in and you meet Kat and she knows that our programs are going on. If you need access to a business advisor, if you want to rent some space, you want to do some co-working, you want to understand, what is this building? We got all sorts of systems ready for that. And so again, we do go back a little on the process. Hey, you want to have an event here? Here's a form. It's not, I don't want to talk to you. It's like, that's going to give me a lot more data points in order to have that conversation. And that's going to make it a lot more efficient because we have a goal, for example, in our first year to have 100 events here. Year 2, 200, year 3, 300. And one of the things when we were doing customer discovery with entrepreneurs, like they want to see a live building. They want to see a lot going on. They want to run into other entrepreneurs. They want to have educational opportunities. They want to have business interactions. And so hopefully when they come in, there's an event going on, right? They feel a vibe. They feel its energy, right? They walk by and there's someone having a meeting. Someone's having a call. Someone's just chit-chatting in the night. They're playing ping pong in the game room, right? Or there's some large event in Broadview Hall. And so it's a vibe of busyness, of energy, of opportunity. And our staff is all like, if I can't talk to you now, I can get you to the right person and I'll take all your data and we'll continue to have those interactions.
What kind of events are you hoping to host here?
We do, I said it earlier about offense and defense. We'll do about 24 to 30 of our own events where we see that whole entrepreneurial continuum. Let's make sure that we're identifying all the legal aspects, maybe on intellectual property, on entity formation. Hey, I have a cap table. What's your investment side of thing? We do a lot in the investment space. What's the HR, and there's a lot of wellness opportunities for entrepreneurs and things like that. So we have a core of 20 to 30 that we'll do on our own. And then we want to be a convening location where other organizations have events here. It's not let's build this building and just keep it to ourselves. It's build this building and let other people here. We have other organizations in the building, like we have the SBDC here, the GSBDC here. These are organizations that are always doing trainings. And we partner with our ecosystem partners to say, hey, you want to have an event here? Great. We do a monthly meeting with all the small business service providers. So if you're providing business, we get together and recognize, all right, here's the problems that we're having. Here's the programs that we're doing. Here's how I could help you. And it's to be a convener of all those folks as well. And so I hope anyone that comes into this building feels that they belong here and that they can do things here.
That is wonderful. I hope they feel that way too. And I can tell you, as someone who has walked in here a number of times now, I have felt welcome every single time.
It was a little bit of a mess up front, all the stuff going on, but welcome.
Yeah, well, you know what? I still say I think you were just trying to show me up with the equipment that we brought. You wanted a bigger set outside so you could be like, look, you got competition. No, that was amazing. That was really cool to see that there's so much going on here at once. And that was for something that is for a business that's in here, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, which is great. So, not only is that business getting its marketing and it's developing some marketing, but you're also getting marketing for INSPYRE Hub through that.
Yeah. You know what I love is like I walk by a room, I'm like, I don't know what's going on in there, but it's activity. Like it used to be, you know, everything that's going on, right? When you get to a certain scale, it's like, oh, that's great that you're here. You run into people that, oh, I'm glad you're using the space. So we have an events manager. She's great at it. And so she handles all that.
So you mentioned partners also coming in and doing events. What partners do you have besides SBDC that would be coming in and doing events here?
I literally have a list of over 80. So I'd have to, at the risk of not upsetting a lot of people, but at the end of the day, if you think you're our partner, you are, right? And so our goal here is to be inclusive, to provide opportunity, and like our next door neighbors are wise. But they come over and they help us. And you know, when we're identifying women-owned businesses, and so we interact with them. And so we have a very broad network.
Yeah. So is it like state and private institutions that are?
It's state, it's federal, it's private, it's educational, it's economic development, it's all those.
I was curious, because I was going to ask if you had any workforce trainings kind of taking place here. You know, I know a lot of people are kind of picking up on how can we get, you know, different age ranges involved in the workforce that's going to be coming with Micron, especially to this area. So I was curious if you guys were a part of any of that.
So at CenterState CEO, I report up into something called inclusive growth. And so inclusive growth is a three-legged stool. It's innovation and entrepreneurship, which is what we've been talking about. Economic development. Hey, I need a physical building. I need access to resources, your traditional economic development. And then the one in the middle is workforce development. We have a whole function, Amy Durfee and her team, that are working on that. Amy has been in lockstep with Micron since it was Project Kanki the whole time. And frankly, it was one of the reasons they considered upstate New York is our workforce capability. And they are training people at the junior high and high school level already. And Amy and her team are identifying what are the needs, what do we need to get first. And frankly, they're doing a really interesting thing. All right, what's the construction process? We got to get transportation people. We got to get construction people. All right, they're going to build this spot. And then we're going to go on to the next. Who's going to be in the building? And so they've done a ton of work in that space and are the backbone of organizing all that. On the school side, we have the STEAM school right down the block. And so that's brand new. They have their first class in there, the ninth graders. They're here every month. And so they come over and we do an innovation training and talk to them. And I go there. We have them meet entrepreneurs. The last time, I've been joking about this, last time they were here, they had nice little notebooks and they had questions that they were going to write. And so I did this presentation. They asked me for their autograph, my autograph.
Oh, really?
It was the sweetest thing.
That is precious.
Yeah.
Wow, you were probably giddy like,
oh my God, it made my year.
Yeah. Wow, was that the first time that had happened to you or?
Ask for my autograph? Yeah.
Well, I guess you better get used to it. You're probably going to be a big name around here, honestly, especially as things continue to grow. You're a big force in all of this. What kind of, talking about you for a second, what kind of role do you feel like you're playing right now critically for all of this? INSPYRE, from Micron coming in?
Yeah. My background is starting and growing things. I like to, get things rolling or fix problems. That's my background. And so when I came here, actually in CenterState, it's only been 2.5 years. It is to grow the team, make sure we have the team well positioned to be able to provide services to that whole continuum. 2 is to strengthen the relationship between INSPYRE and CenterState writ large so that we're serving our entire network, not just the tech folks. 3, build this building.
Yeah, which was a lot.
And 4, fill it. Yeah. And now we're on to programming.
And what parts of programming do you like the most? What are the things that really sing to you as an entrepreneur? In my background, I've done a lot of work with companies, $500,000 to $10 million in revenue. And so those are product market fit that are going through growth, growing pains. They have levers to pull. And that's a sweet spot that I enjoy spending a lot of times. My background is operations and finance. And so that's an area where it's like, I'm not figuring out if the widget works. I'm figuring out how the business works. And so that's where personally, that's the space I like. I like that. I didn't actually know that about you, which is kind of crazy. Because I remember when the Hustle program was the commercialization academy at the GI, and you supported all the businesses and that, and you're still supporting the Hustle program, correct?
Yeah. We have a cohort going on right now.
Which really showcases the cross-regional aspect that INSPYRE Innovation Hub is bringing here. Would you agree with that?
It is. We have an upcoming cohort that starts on March 10th. Two of the 5 companies in that household cohort are in this building.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. What a great cross-collaboration. And now when we're talking about expanding regionally, have you thought about, how is Albany Nanotech playing into all of this or anything of that nature?
We have, from my vantage point, we're doing a lot of work with New York Creates. We have a Tech Hubs designation that is Syracuse, Rochester, and Buffalo. In our DoD contract, we're working with the Griffith Institute already, Syracuse University, and CenterState. And so we're, all these circles are starting to happen.
When I hear, different organizations coming together and really working to build and sustain an economy, I think that just showcases what New York State is really all about. It's really about pulling in all of our diverse, skill sets and saying, how can we create a stable economy for everyone? And INSPYRE Innovation Hub is really a key point in central New York for doing that.
I hope so. And I think it's one of the reasons why Micron decided to be here.
Yeah. Oh, really? You think INSPYRE Innovation Hub was a big part of that?
I would say, because INSPYRE was, aspirational at the time when they made the decision, but the thought process and the forward-looking of CenterState's leadership really made that happen.
And I asked, what encouraged CenterState to want to do this, to build INSPYRE?
Well, to add to the building, it was pre-COVID. We were full, and actually we're renting space next door. And so, all right, and at that time, it was all just tech-based companies. Started to realize, okay, we could build physical space on this. It's a collapsed parking garage that could hold actually 18 stories if it wanted to, because it was going to be the 3rd tower. There's the need there in that tech space. COVID comes, little introspection relative to the types of companies that we want to serve, and embracing that we're a place where businesses succeed and all people prosper. That whole all people prosper was an important part of that. Yeah. And so we want to be inspirational and all that. And so it was to grow a capability to serve all our innovative needs on the early stage, from the pizza place to, hey, I got a high-tech company that's here in town that wants to figure out how to innovate. Maybe it's to get into semiconductors. Maybe it's to use that for the DoD. And so how can we use that innovation capability?
And I want to pull back again and hit on the fact that you're talking about everyone being, we want everyone to succeed and to economically thrive here, including the mom and pop shops. Mm-hmm. If I'm a mom and pop shop, this might be a little bit intimidating to walk into, right? How would you suggest, they approach the situation if they were interested in your services or learning more here?
Well, it's not that, first of all, that's true. And we recognize that. Things that we have done to help that is we will go out into the community and do our programming there, as well as have it here. And then when people are participating in our Start It program, they have full access to the building. And so it's like, yeah, you're in. And so it takes some time for people to feel more comfortable, and not everybody does. It is meeting entrepreneurs where they are. We have a wellness suite upstairs for mothers that need to have a place to nurse. So it's making sure we're doing the things we want. We have classes at night, so people that are working can come to a class at night. We have a laptop lending program. So if we've had a number of entrepreneurs come here and they're doing their whole business plan on a phone. And so, hey, here's a Chromebook. And so our goal is to meet them where they are.
That's really great to supply all of those things to small businesses here in central New York like that, because, yeah, you mentioned things that are so critical. Doing your business plan on a phone is possible, but also extremely stressful.
It is.
So being able to hand out technology for people to use and obviously return, that is an innovation that not a lot of businesses like this, not a lot of centers like this actually do.
Yeah, and places that don't think of the solution first, this is what we do, we provide training. People that think of the problem, like, why didn't so-and-so show up? Oh, they needed access to daycare. can we partner with a daycare company to help with that? Or I didn't have, one of the issues on the job and the workforce training is access to rides. Be like, do I need an improved bus system? Can I have a car purchase program there? And so it is going to the problem versus just sticking with the solution.
So what are the biggest roadblocks and problems you're seeing? Is it like daycare, like family kinds of things? Is it transportation? What are you seeing?
It depends on the type of business that you are. In the workforce, transportation is certainly a huge one. We see apathy is one as well. And so it is getting people feeling that, yeah, you do belong. And so there's a bit of that kind of training. I see technology as a hurdle. And then daycare is always going to be one.
Always, because everyone is always trying to figure out, how do I pay for it? What do I do? This has actually come up in many of our podcast recordings at this point, different people bringing up different things. Shauna Papal, she was on the podcast. Yeah, which we love her. She's wonderful. And she was talking about how the old Griffiths building, they recently have it rented out to daycare, a new daycare facility. So they're transforming that space into something where kids will be able to come so that they can support that Griffiths business part.
Sure.
How incredible is that?
It's fantastic. And frankly, it was a requirement by the county. Good for them on Micron being here, that they did have to provide that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's great. So are we seeing that kind of stuff happen in Syracuse, New York as well? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And, and it's not only, hey, let's go find one. Maybe we can make one. Yeah. Because we find a lot of daycare programs that are perhaps not registered and just, working out of someone's house. And there's business in general that we're seeing a lot of that. How do I make my side hustle or perhaps my not quite legit business legit?
Yeah. And so are you seeing a lot of small businesses like that come in and say, I want to legitimize myself?
They don't kind of advertise that, but, through conversations, we'll have, some interactions about that. It tends to come up in the financial portion when we're having conversations about that. Are you segregating your business economics in your personal? And very frequently they're not.
They're not.
And so, getting some best practices there.
Well, how are underserved and underrepresented and maybe disenfranchised neighborhoods in Syracuse going to be impacted by the INSPYRE Innovation Hub?
Well, we have a number of programs that specifically target those populations, whether it's our startup program or our Upstart Accelerator or a Surge Accelerator. And so we've identified the whole SETI population. We're in a hub zone. And so that we're vitally aware of that and actively targeting that. One of the programs that one of my colleagues runs called Tech and Culture. And so if I'm an underserved individual and I want to get a job in the technology space, one of the biggest the hurdles are like, I don't know anyone in that space. And so what he does is he creates opportunities for these individuals to meet with these companies. And we do networking events and we talk to them about how it is that you can get introduced. And so being really intentional about those opportunities. And we'll have those right here in INSPYRE.
In the next 3 to 5 years, where do you see the impact of INSPYRE Innovation Hub?
Well, the third floor will be built out because the third floor is a shell right now. And when we think about that third floor, we're working and have some active conversations going on right now, working with corporate innovation. So that is a next step. What that does is really enforces the innovation mindset and then brings together everyone from Main Street business to these large corporates, puts them in a same space, gives opportunity for like those large corporates to identify, I have a problem with XYZ. Maybe you could help solve that, right? And so it's the whole continuum of early stage right through growth. And we're really primed for it and we're excited about that.
Sounds like you're putting everyone on a same playing field in order to actually get collaboration to take place.
In the last 2 weeks, I've had the following interaction. You didn't tell me that was a vice president or, it's just a guy that they don't recognize the level of the individual that they're talking to. And that's really interesting because one, we're able to make those connections. And two, that high level executive wasn't condescending. It wasn't saying, what do you know? You're not. And so we're really starting to level out that playing field.
Now, John, before we leave, I want to give you the opportunity to maybe leave us with any thoughts that you might have.
If you think you can, you can. Come on down to the INSPYRE Innovation Hub. Go to our website, inspirehub.com. Whether that's, I want to start a business, I want to understand the ecosystem, I'm in the corporate space and want to be a participant or assist. We have mentorship programs, we have consulting opportunities, we have business advising, anyone is welcome.
That's great, John. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure, Shay.
John, thank you for joining us today and for painting such a powerful picture of what the INSPYRE Innovation Hub will mean for innovators and small businesses throughout our region. This is the kind of visionary work that strengthens communities and builds the foundations for long-term economic growth. To everyone listening, we appreciate you spending time with us. If you're inspired by today's conversation, stay connected with CenterState CEO, get involved with local entrepreneurship, and keep supporting the incredible work happening right here in New York State. This has been another episode of the IGNITEU New York podcast, powered by NYSTEC. I'm your host, Shay Brown. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.